Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Planning Board for the City of Birmingham, Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. Could we please call the roll? Present. Present.
We can't hear.
Stuart Jeffries. Brett Kozak.
Here.
Daniel Sher.
Here. Daniel Sher is here for the record. We're having a difficulty hearing you, Laura.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
Janelle Local Voice.
Here.
Brian Williams.
Present.
Emma Curry.
Here.
Ms. Lieberman. Carter Anderson.
Here.
Elizabeth DePlantos.
All right, we are quorum, and Mr. Curry is a voting member here this evening for the record. All right, let's move on to review and approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of June 11th, 2025. Do we have any comments, corrections, regrets?
None. I'll move approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 11, 2025.
Motion, Mr. Williams. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Second, Mr. Kozak. Thank you very much. Conversation to the board. All those in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion unanimous. Welcome tonight. I see another great, robust crowd. I'm glad you're here to provide your input. Thank you again for coming. There will be an opportunity for everybody to speak at the appropriate times. I'll go through that process as we get into each item. I know we're all here for one particular item. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces. Let's just work together to try and get through this process together to reach the appropriate outcomes. With that, are there any changes to the agenda, Mr. Dupuy, as it has been published online?
No, there are no changes.
Excellent. So we're going to move right in. The main topic tonight is a special land use permit and a related site plan and design review for 479 South Old Woodward, Birmingham Towers. Now, everyone watching, both here and at home and board, I think it's appropriate to take a quick moment. This project has been going on for a long time, as many of you will attest to. I see a lot of familiar faces, as I said. And I know that many of us, including the applicant, the residents, members of this board and staff, have looked at this many, many times, but there are some things that have arisen again today that I feel appropriate to discuss with everybody out in the open in order to make sure everybody understands where we are and where we're headed on this project. Number one, this project was on the agenda last month, and I know to the dismay and frustration of many of the residents, it was postponed by this body. I'd like to make sure it's clear why we did that, because I don't know that I made a good job at the time of explaining it. But the city received a letter from a resident of Birmingham Place concerned about the notice given to residents. That letter was forwarded to the city attorney for her comment to determine whether or not we had made an error in noticing, which would have resulted in a project that we could not listen to. Her opinion was that while there was no legal error, there was some language in the noticing that might be construed as not allowing the residents, particularly residents of Birmingham Place in whole, to fully understand what was being put forth. Therefore, this board took the cautious route and postponed the meeting in order to ensure that the entire community, particularly the residents of Birmingham Place, where the note and the letter requesting the postponement originated, would be heard. I think it's an important note that I don't think I made very clear last week. So again, we have heard the people of Birmingham Place, and we will continue to hear from you as long as you're willing to provide your input. Number two, we have received another letter from the same resident of Birmingham Place, co-signed by the president of the Residential Condo Association, indicating that they have concerns about the form of application that was put forward today, and again requesting a postponement of this meeting until that's corrected. We have forwarded that to the city attorney for her input. And Mr. Dupuy, you've spoken with the city attorney at long lengths. What is her recommendation related to that?
Absolutely. So we spoke at great length about it, and as a summary, we feel it's totally legitimate to be here today, that the process has been followed, particularly for special land use permits. up to and including noticing and everything in between. So we are able to be here today. We're legally able to be here today.
So the city's attorney opinion is to consider this item and move forward, based on that letter received by, again, a resident from Birmingham Place.
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, for the news of today. The applicant and their counsel submitted a letter and an engineering report to the city this afternoon, I believe around 2:30, 2:40 in the afternoon. I received it at about 5 p.m. I have not looked at it. However, it raises some questions that I think need to be addressed, and I notice that the applicant and his counsel is here today. I'm wondering if they might come forward and answer a question or two of mine, if they would be so inclined. Please. Good evening.
Chairman Klein, how are you?
Good. You please just introduce yourself for the record.
Patrick Howe, attorney for the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. So just to clarify, I want to make sure that my facts are correct. You did send a letter via email which included an engineering report which was related to the parking situation for this project. Is that correct?
I received a parking analysis, and I forwarded it to Mr. Dupuy about
Great.
5 minutes later.
Okay.
And the purpose of that was to just give everyone a copy of a presentation that will be made by a parking consultant tonight.
Okay, so my facts are correct. You got it today, you forwarded it to us.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Are you aware that for as long as I have been chair, which is many, many years and many gray hairs ago, this body does not accept information at a meeting, particularly information of a significant nature that impacts the direct bearing on the application. We cannot accept, it has not been reviewed by anybody on this panel. It has not been reviewed by Mr. Dupuy. It has not been reviewed by any outside consultant. So I guess what I'm saying to you is I want to make sure you're aware that we cannot listen to any presentation tonight related to a traffic study that has not been vetted by and properly submitted in time to be vetted by the city.
She can make her presentation without, if you don't want to look at I forwarded the materials as a courtesy because she's going to go through them tonight. Mr. Marcus is going to speak. I'm going to speak, and our parking consultant is going to speak.
Well, actually, I don't know that that's really what's going to happen because, in my opinion, you have left us no choice by submitting this documentation this late. It has become a part of your application. I'd like you to listen to what I'm saying, Mr. Marcus.
Sorry, I apologize.
You've submitted it, and it is now on record as part of your application. It is our duty as a board representing the city of Birmingham, and indeed the city of Birmingham, to provide due process to your application. So this board cannot, in my mind, take any action on your proposal tonight because we have a significant submittal from you that has not been vetted, and the reason it hasn't been vetted is that it was submitted late afternoon today. I'm not about to sit here and try and call you out. I know your reputation. I've seen you in the business for many years. I will say that the submittal of this information tonight, in my opinion, is very disrespectful to the time and effort that this board, that our staff, and that the consultants of the city put forth. And furthermore, I think it's a little inconsiderate to the people who are here, who spent the time to come tonight. They have not had a chance to review it, not in the least, because it hasn't been posted online. And now we've asked them to come out here tonight, and I am not about to sit here and force them to sit through 2 hours worth of conversation when I can tell you right now, no action is going to be taken. So in my opinion, board, we have no choice because of the submittal tonight, but to postpone this to a date certain to allow our consultants to review this information in order to ensure that due process is followed. Now, for the public, I can hear the frustration and I understand it. Please understand that it's shared all around. This board and the city does hear your concerns and your opinions. We received a letter that was part of the packet along with however many, 50, 60, 80, whatever the number of signatures opposing the proposal. It is part of the record and it will continue to be part of the record. But again, I have to stress that it is the responsibility of this board in order to recommend to the city commission things that are in compliance with law and that would not put the city in a position where we're even charged with denying someone the due process on their application. And that is exactly what we would be doing if we took action tonight, without a thorough review of the information. So I'll give you one minute a word.
Mr. Klein, hi. My name is Durade Marcus, one of the owners of the Birmingham Tower Partners. First and foremost, there was no disrespect meant to the board. We got information as fast as we could, and we submitted it. It was not to do sabotage. It was not to bootstrap people. We got the report today. I think it's 2 or 3 pages of narrative. I think there's only one specific area of the report that's really relevant. But in any event, Mr. Klein, I understand your concern, but it was in no way to disrespect this board. I've been in front of you enough, and I think I have enough credibility to say that we didn't do this to sabotage this board or try to pull a fast one on this board. We got it today, and we submitted today. Secondly, I understand your concern about having this. So if the board wishes, if the board allows, rather, I'll withdraw that report, and surely we could submit at a later date, because obviously this is the recommending body. And surely we could submit that report as further supplemental information to another body for them to do their review and make a determination. So if the board wish, I'm ready to go if we're going to be okay in withdrawing that report and not have it considered.
I expected that offer tonight, Mr. Marcus, and again, I'm not trying to throw arrows at your credibility. I am angry and frustrated at the situation that has arisen on many fronts, and today is yet another example of it. In this case, it was put forth by the report. I will tell you that we are a recommending body who is required by ordinance to provide our recommendations to the City Commission. If we were to put forth any recommendation for or against this project tonight,
Right.
it would go to the City Commission and you would submit that engineering document. How is the City Commission going to analyze our recommendation when they're getting brand-new technical information that is far above their head, quite frankly, and feel that they can rely on the recommendation provided by the planning board?
Sure.
What's going to happen is you're going to get to that meeting next month. You're going to get postponed unanimously by the City Commission, and we're going to wind up here in 2 months at the exact same spot we are tonight for another meeting here, and then you're going to have to go back to another meeting of the City Commission.
Guess
And my point is, I don't think that this board or the public deserves to go through that, when in this case, frankly, this information should have been submitted for your submittal a month ago, let alone today.
I wish I had, but, as we delved into this, we tried to provide a report and an argument that's most comprehensive. And this came up to us. I wish I would have submitted it, but we only thought of this and had discussions about this and got the relevant information in a short period of time.
That's enough.
I guess to your answer to your question, how is the board supposed to analyze this? Well, you do have a planning commission. You do have consultants. You do have people that review these things. They provide reports to your planning commission, which can circulate up to the full board. So they will be fully informed of what this report is.
This is the planning body in this city, sir.
Understood.
There is no commission. It is a planning board, which is an advisory board that provides recommendations on site plans, and in this particular case, recommendations on special land use permits, which is what you asked this project to be under, so that we could consider your changes in use and parking. So what is going to happen is that staff, the excellent planning staff of the city of Birmingham is going to review the information. They're going to forward it on to whatever consultants they feel they need to. And they're going to do that review, the review you just talked about.
Right.
But the review they didn't let them do because you sent it to them today. And they're going to get that information back to this body that is charged by the city commission to provide the recommendations on your SLUP.
I understand, and I accept whatever decision the board makes, but I can sense the tone in your voice that you're upset, but this isn't something that we did purposefully.
I admit that, and I accept your apology on that regard, and I do not think that you did anything purposely to try and draw ire from a board that was 3 hours later about to vote on your proposal. I get that. And you've been in this business long enough that I get it.
And to be
That
quite
doesn't change where we're at.
I understand, and to be quite honest with you, if the report was not favorable to me, I probably wouldn't be here today, because I said, how am I going to get over this hump?
That's enough.
But
We're not getting into
Thank
it.
you.
I think we understand one
Sit
another.
down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Board, I don't know if there's any brief conversation, but I would entertain a motion at any
But
time.
I wonder if I can ask the applicant a question, because there's part of what that exchange that I didn't understand, that it may be that there's a solution to go forward. So without the report at all.
No.
Mr. Chair, I am pretty firm in the fact that they've submitted a report to the city of Birmingham, and it is now a part of the record for their application. So to retract it and then know that it's going to come back again
Well-
is not what our process is.
Right, I understand that, but the thrust of my inquiry would be whether the applicant's willing to withdraw the report entirely.
I have trouble with that because I think that's just setting us up for potential litigation when the applicant says the city told me to take back a report.
No, we didn't.
They filed a report, they have due process rights, we have to make sure that they are properly heard
I'm not-
and that the community is properly informed, and I hate saying this. No, please, Mr. Marcus, sit down. I hate saying this, but I think it is in everybody's best interest, the applicant, the city, and the community, particularly the residents, to make sure that the due process is followed and that report is reviewed and a part of the packet that this body reviews and provides its recommendation to the city. We know it exists. It's not like they're changing brick colors. They're not adding a door. They're talking about a significant portion of their submittal now. The thrust of this change is
We already have
what it does to parking. And it's already in the possession of the city.
I understand that, but I think the applicant, and I obviously don't know, but if the applicant, who has the advice of counsel here, wants to withdraw it entirely, that's their right, in my view. So,
Personally, then, we would need the city attorney here to tell me whether or not we're getting into any mess on the city side by allowing them to do it, knowing what may or may not happen. And I'm not prepared to make that decision. I'm not a lawyer. You're not getting paid to be a lawyer. So, tonight at least.
not tonight.
So I'm sorry, I get your point.
Yeah.
But this is not a minor issue related to, like I said, changing a brick color or switching out a few trees. This is the thrust of what we're here for tonight. Mr. Kozik?
I might just add, I haven't even checked an email this afternoon, so I don't even know what you guys are talking about. So it goes back to your point. And this has happened to us in the past. Fortunately, it's rare. But when it's happened, it's been the same response. It's if we haven't seen it and studied it and sometimes staff sees it and we haven't seen it. So, but neither one of us have seen it, so I guess I support your.
All right. Mr. Williams?
No, I got nothing.
Well, I would entertain a motion because I think we're pretty firm on this.
We got to
We're going to go to the public on the motion. We're not going to go to the public. We'll go to the public in a moment on the motion itself.
So I'll move that we postpone consideration of,
479.
let me get the agenda if I can find it. 479 South Old Woodard, Birmingham Towers, request for special land use permit, and also request for final site plan and design review to Wednesday, July 23, 2025. Is that the date of the second meeting?
Yes,
Yeah, I believe so. If you want, just,
that's the second meeting. That's the site plan meeting for July.
yeah, yes, it is. 23.
It should be a holiday because it happens to be my birthday, but,
Happy birthday to you.
yeah.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams. Is there a second?
I'll support.
Support, Ms. Whipple-Boyce. Conversation at the board level.
I mean,
Conversation? Yeah, Mr.
My sense of it is clear. I will not support the motion without giving the applicant a chance to withdraw the report entirely, which I think would be within their right, and particularly when they're here with counsel, would not raise any due process concerns, should they be inclined to do so.
Okay, thank you. I will now open to the public for conversation, particularly about the motion. I know you're here to talk about the building. I know you're here to talk about the proposed changes, but given what we all said tonight, if you're here to discuss why we're doing what we're doing and whether you agree with the postponement, the motion, please do so. You've got another bite of this apple. I hope you understand. We'll start here and then we'll come back to here. So, ma'am, please go forward.
Thanks. My name is Kate McNevin, obviously a Birmingham Place resident. So I understand and agree with the postponement. I will just say that it's incredibly frustrating to the entire team here to, I mean, I will personally say I actually cut my vacation short in Europe to be here in person. And we have people who have driven down for 3-4 hours up north to be here for the second time in a row. It is very, very frustrating. And I just want to say to the developer, enough is enough. There are excuses and excuses and changes and changes, and we as residents are spending an inordinate amount of hours pouring through documents in an area of expertise that this is not our expertise, to try and understand all these changes after changes after changes. And the building keeps getting developed, and I would request that we do meet in July and we have a conversation. And I would also request, I have been an advocate in many emails, I'm sure the planning director is tired of my emails, but that this has to be a collaborative effort across the different areas of Birmingham, the city of Birmingham. I deeply appreciate your support today, but also I believe that the Parking Commission, the engineering team need to be involved in the discussions around Birmingham Tower. Top-down construction has real risk. I have spent the last 2 months deeply educating myself on this construction methodology, and it needs to be discussed.
Ma'am,
The last parking assessment of Birmingham was done in 2018. This needs to be taken into consideration.
Ma'am, I get your point, and I understand what you're saying. I agree with the collaborative process. The engineering department and the parking management manager are involved in every review that comes to
Okay.
the city of Birmingham. They provide input to us
Okay.
as they see fit. If you have concerns about the construction of the building as it is,
Yes.
understand that the building itself has been approved and permitted, and they have a legal right to do what they're doing.
Yes.
So this body has no further action over the size or massing of that building because it conforms to ordinance. The application being put forth relates to the uses inside and their impacts on parking. So I strongly suggest that this is not the venue tonight, let alone in a month, to express concerns about construction methodology and others. That's an engineering and building department matter, because this board has no juris over any of that. They have a legal right to build what they're building, and if they're building it in a manner that you feel is unsafe, then you need to contact the building department immediately, because they're the only ones that can do anything about that.
I'm not suggesting it's unsafe, and
No,
I
no,
actually have reached out to the engineering committee, who, by the way, Mr. Clementi did respond to my note and said actually that it was your department. So, FYI.
Let's get the city manager, and let's get you talking with Mr. Dupuy again, and we'll make a note to the city manager to have this discussed at staff so that you can iron out this communication and make sure that the residents who have concerns over the existing building construction, which is not what we're dealing with here, can have those concerns addressed. Because again, this body has approved it. The city commission has done any approval that they have been required to. The Board of Zoning Appeals has provided approval, and I have a building permit. So that falls underneath the purview of the, as far as the construction methodology of the building department and the inspectors involved. So I appreciate your input, but I'd like to move on to get others some opportunity to speak. Sir, please.
Yes, Sam McKnight. I'm a resident at Birmingham Place and a member of the board, of the residential board. With respect to the untimely submission, I understand your thinking, and I would ask that you consult with the city attorney before we reconvene, and I would urge that you simply reject that submission as untimely, whether it's considered tonight or at some future meeting. In a hearing of this nature, that's generally the consequence of trying to submit something on an untimely basis. And I'd ask that you consider that with the city attorney.
Thank you.
With respect to tonight, just so that we have kind of a record here, you have the booklet with about almost 90 signatures of petitions opposing it. And I would just ask, so we have a record, because it's getting tiresome, right, for all of us, including you perhaps. For those who oppose For those who oppose this request, please stand.
No, we're not doing
Oh,
some.
they can stand, just so you have a record.
They can stand all they want, but we are not doing a straw poll vote.
No, I'm
This
not
is
asking you to do
the
a
Iowa
poll.
caucus.
I'm just asking to make a record of who's here.
No, we have a record that everybody is here. We have a full room tonight, and they're generally the same people who have been here every step of the way, providing their good input.
Well,
We know your position, and we're more than willing to continue to hear it as we move through this process, because it's important. But please don't sit there and say that we have no understanding of how
I'm not
derisive
suggesting
that this is.
I'm just suggesting, I just
Sir,
suggesting
we
that
know
it would
what-
be helpful to the board to see the numbers. that
No,
are
it
here.
wouldn't, and we're not going to get
And
into a
if the
straw
board
poll.
doesn't want us to hear that, then that's the board's choice. But my guesstimate is that there's about 40 people here tonight, which is growing. We
Sure.
started at about 30, then we went to about 35, we're up to 40. I don't know if we can hang on, but we'll try. With respect,
Do know that your presence is noted and not going to be forgotten.
with respect to 479 South Old Woodward, I just want to say this much. There's nothing special about 479 South Old Woodward and its developers that warrants a special waiver of 47 parking spaces. But this hearing tonight, and its postponement, tells us something, and that's the one thing that is special. These developers, since about 2017, have been relentless in coming to this board for qualifications, for waivers, and for modifications of whatever their site plan is, to get special treatment so that it can enhance their profits of their development at the expense of their neighbors. And really, what I'm saying here tonight is, please consult with city council and please figure out a way to put a stop to this.
We are doing everything in our power to move this forward, believe me. Sir,
So quick, just relative
you can introduce yourself for the record, please.
Bill Kolb, 411.
Thank you.
Old Woodward resident. Just to avoid future delays, Mr. Williams, I understood that the meeting that is going to replace this meeting is on July 25th, 23rd, but I've already got notification that the city commission is considering this on July 14th. Right, we've already got notification about that meeting, so do we have a further delay because we're
Mr. Dupuy, can you please explain what will happen now that this has not gone before us prior to that scheduled discussion?
Yes, so the 14th, you're correct, July 14th is when we set the public hearing at the city commission.
When the city commission set the public hearing?
That's correct. Thank you for the clarification. That would be, forget the legal term, so forgive me, postponed or tabled at that time and reset for a future date.
There will be no action taken on that at the 14th meeting, because it doesn't have a recommendation from this body.
With new postcards and things.
Okay. I just want to make sure that there's not another reason
understand.
to delay. Okay.
Understand. Any final comments on the motion, sir? You've been waiting to speak?
Thank you. My name is Larry Rockhind. I live at Birmingham Place. I'd like to offer a different view and resolution of the adjournment today. I speak only to that. I think it would be more fair to everyone and actually less frustrating to proceed tonight. This board has been exceedingly lenient to this developer. I was here on March 26th when the developer was here without counsel saying that he wanted the board to approve a shared parking agreement with Birmingham Place, but there wasn't any agreement. There hadn't been any conversations about it at all, and it was a complete waste of time. Rather than deny that application because it was totally without merit, this board adjourned it. So what you do tonight, which adds to my frustration, is guarantee more adjournments when we have a chance for fewer. Because if you were to say, which I think you should, and which if you were a court you would, if you were to say tonight, we will hear this without your submission at 5 o'clock because it's untimely, we can't guarantee if you deny or approve it, we can't guarantee that the commission will then say, well, we're sending it back, we're not sending it back. They might hear it themselves. They might consult with their own experts. So if you proceed with this hearing tonight, we at last preserve a chance of being done with this when your decision is submitted at the city commission. What you're doing guarantees more delay, and I think you're making a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Mr. Rockine, just for the record, you're the one that sent the letter after the close of business on May 23rd requesting a postponement, did you not? I have your letter.
Why does that matter?
Well, I just think the residents of Birmingham Police need to know that you're the one that requested the postponement in the meeting last month.
You don't have to interrogate me. Tell them if you want them to know
You did.
something. Okay.
Thank you. Sit down.
You don't.
Enough. Everybody, Mr. Williams, please. Mr. Williams, please.
That was
Please.
nasty.
That was inappropriate.
No, it was. It was
Have a
totally
seat,
appropriate.
Mr. Rockine. Thank you. Any final comment from the public? And we'll go to you and Mr. Howe.
Thank you, Chairman Klein. I just want to reiterate, this was forwarded to you as a courtesy of testimony that will be provided by our traffic consultant. This in no way was meant to slip under the door, gotcha, get into the record. I've been practicing 20 years and hope we got 20 more years, 500 feet from here. I've been before the city, hopefully many times, and that is not how I operate, and that's not something my client would do. We had a first conference call with our traffic consultant the week following last month's meeting. And so this has been a long process, and the timing is unfortunate, but we got it in literally within 10 minutes of me receiving it. So with that, if this were to proceed tonight, we literally have a 3/4 page analysis, which I was delivering as a courtesy that she's going to speak to tonight. That's it.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
and I would also indicate that Mr. Rockine's notice was right before the last meeting, and that got your attention and got us postponed. So you paid attention to that one, but this courtesy filing, which we're going to go into great detail with the person that drafted it tonight, is not appropriate. So I find that ironic.
Thank you. We're going to end public comment and bring it back to the board. We'll do a roll call vote on this, please.
Is there time for one more question?
No, I'm sorry, ma'am. We're brought it back. If you have questions, we'll make sure they get answered before you leave, but
No time for comment?
no, not right now. We'll definitely be more time. Laura, if you could please call the roll.
Brian Williams,
Yes.
Janelle Wolf-Boyce,
Yes.
Duncan Curry,
Yes.
Robin Boyle.
He's not here.
Yeah,
Did you say my name?
I did. Scott Klein,
Yes.
Bert Kosek,
Yes.
Wayne Fair.
You? No.
All right, by my count, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5-1. The motion passes. The item will be postponed to the July 23rd date. Is that correct, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Again, thank you for your input and your time. I think we all have said enough tonight. We share our frustrations. We will continue moving forward on that with all alacrity. Thank you for your input. And we will move along. So if you could, if you decide you're going to leave the meeting tonight, that's certainly up to you. We do have a few more items of business to take care of, so please do so quietly. With that, we're going to move to our study session portion of we're going to move forward to the study session portion of this.
What it is.
We have one item
Well, you're the
of
only
real
one
note.
that doesn't. But now you've read it.
Everyone,
It's not.
could please. 35001 Woodward is a pre-application discussion. I know I see the applicant and the applicant's architect here. Mr. Dupuy, do you have any input you wanted to provide us before we get going?
Just a short preamble while they make their way up. A pre-application discussion, per usual, is just requesting a high-level amount of feedback from you all based on a request from the applicant. In this case, the request, to put it plainly, is whether or not the change that they're going to propose can be approved administratively, or whether or not you feel you need it, you feel as though it's substantial enough to rise to the occasion of a site plan review, or in this case, another site plan review. The change is related to a change in use, similar to the last proposal in the, I believe it's the 3rd floor or 4th floor? They'll tell you exactly, but it changes the parking condition as well as their plans for it. So I'll let the applicant explain the details.
Make sure that door is closed. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Bisson.
I'm glad to be here.
Please, just for the
Kevin
record.
Biddison,
thank you.
Biddison Architecture, 320 Martin Street. Briefly, what we're asking for and what we have been discussing internally as we've been looking at the project, looking at the design, structure, all of those things. We currently have first floor of retail, second floor, about 10,000 square feet roughly of office, and then the remaining of the second floor and third, fourth, and fifth floors as residential. What that requires and what we have currently are 2 levels of underground parking. What we are proposing would be to take the second half of the second floor and the third floor to allow, which is allowed under the ordinance, to be an office user, and have the fourth floor and fifth floor remain, I believe it's 17 and 8, so 25 residential units, which would allow us to eliminate 1 level of underground parking, which has become just incredibly, as I learned the hard way a few months ago, become incredibly expensive. And with the surrounding property having 4 road fronts, what that does to us is it allows us to not have to put tieback extensions under 4 roadways, one being the MDOT Woodward Avenue. It just extremely takes complication and cost and basically a situation on the building which just makes it almost unable to work for us. The other issue is that initially this was designed for a better mix of office, retail, and residential, and what that bigger mix does is it really makes it a safer project, a project that has more longevity because it has more layers than just the residential. And when this was started, basically, it was in COVID when the change was made to go almost all entirely residential because there was zero office market at the time. Office buildings were bleeding and going empty. And that has actually changed very much so. There are many companies, national, international companies that are eyeing Birmingham because of its very unique location and financial situation. They want to be here. They are companies that are turning from Detroit, turning from Chicago, New York, and wanting to bring groups here. So the scope has changed in terms of the environment and what is out there, and so we feel after talking with real estate groups, looking at the costs with our construction general contractor, we are asking for some consideration to make this adjustment. We are not asking for any changes to the building. Everything would enter and exit and look exactly the same, except that instead of going down a second time, we would only be going down to the first level. We were able to increase the 1 level of parking by 6 more spaces, so there are 47 spaces as opposed to 41. We have, I think 35 or 36 is what's required for the residential, so we have 23%, something like that, more than what we need. So we're not trying to get a variance on any numbers. We're not trying to get a variance on any use. The 2 floors of office, the 2 floors of residential, and the retail on the first is all completely ordinance driven relative to its its use and its allowability. So what we had talked to Mr. Dupree to see what the process would be if that was something, because it meets all the ordinance requirements, if that was something that could be administratively looked at. And he said, you know what, something I want to bring before the board, make sure, that they would be in approval of that type of situation. So Happy to answer any more questions that you might have. I
So
see-
before Mr. Williams, just real
Yeah.
quickly to make sure I understand it. The proposal you're having is one level of underground, ground floor retail, 2 floors of office, and 2 floors of residential.
Correct.
What was the original site plan? Just help me
So-
remember what,
Reference the drawings. I was going to ask the same thing. We have drawings. Is this what was,
no, this is what they're proposing.
is it?
This was the proposed change. The 2 residential floors here are exactly as what were originally
Okay,
approved.
so that's the same.
Nothing has changed.
Where was the additional residential?
The
Just
additional
remind me.
residential was on the 3rd floor, full
portion of
floor,
it.
matched the second, or matched the 4th floor. And then on the 2nd floor, I don't even know how many years ago at this point, that was originally all office, and then when the office market went dead,
But some
we
residential.
took half of that floor, because it's about 20,000 a floor. So about 10,000 became office, 10,000 became residential.
So how many units are you losing?
How many are we losing?
Not losing. How many residential units are no longer proposed? Like you were.
There would be 17 that were on the 3rd floor, and then about half that many, so maybe about 20, it's about half, about 25. And we have 17 on the 4th floor and 8 on the 5th floor. It's a smaller floor.
Mr. Williams.
You've covered my
Okay.
questions.
Mr. Kuzic.
So I guess my question would be, so you say you conform with the ordinance, right, with these changes, and there's no exterior, your window sizes and shapes and colors and materials don't change. But the fundamental difference is that this is in what used to be called the parking assessment district, correct? So when it was predominantly residential, you were providing your own parking on site as was mandated. So when it becomes office, that shifts to public parking somewhere. We must have had a community impact study in this. There probably was a parking, I just wonder, does the flow when people come and go, I mean, this is a very dynamic site here. Are there any adverse consequences because of, office people come and go differently than residential? And then we have a parking structure that the one they're probably going to use is the, what's it called, the street parking structure or something, and, is there parking there, is there not? So it's not just conform to the ordinance, but you also have to, I'm not suggesting this is an issue, but if there ain't enough parking and I'm not sure who makes that judgment, is it, so that's my question. Has there been time by staff to vet? Is there some, I don't have a problem with the design or the use or anything. That's the only thing I wonder about, and it's not my expertise. And thank you for not giving it to us at 5 o'clock.
It's a real good question, Mr. Kuzic. Mr. Dupuy, Mr. Williams and I have just been chatting. In a sense, a question for you, if this project had come to us in its current configuration, would this be, in your opinion, considered generally by right?
I suppose if you put me on the spot, the answer would be yes.
And I know it's a tough spot to put it.
but-
But the impacts, well, I mean, the ordinance says you can have 2 floors of office. The ordinance says you can have 2 floors of residential if you meet the ordinance, and they're in the former parking assessment district, so they're not required to provide parking for the office. I guess the question would be whether this board would look at that and say, make a value judgment on that, and maybe the way we would be based on the community impact study.
I would just be, right, because the community impact study is, just because you could do something by, I'll call it right. in
Yeah, no, I
quotation
get
marks,
you.
there are other dynamics.
I'm just talking here.
Right, so I would just, because it's not my expertise, I'm just making this up. Would a expert suggest that because it has more office, that it should have 2 entry points or something? Or,
Did we not need a community, wasn't there a community impact study to begin with?
Sure.
Before?
yeah,
So, it's.
but the mix is different.
Yeah, I know that. So the question is, for the House, for council probably, is do we need a revised community impact study in connection with this revised site plan?
Or maybe better, do we want one?
Well, and the answer, I would say, would be no, because if you recall, we haven't done one in a great while. But they're transportation studies, they're not parking studies. So we would study trip generation and things like that, how
Yeah.
cars flow in and out, but it would have nothing to do with parking. So Bert's point about does changing a floor alter the trip generation and the vehicles coming and going at what times? Okay, a transportation study would tell us that, but nothing about parking.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
So and I forget whether it's section 7.27 or 7.36, but, one of the elements that you have to determine in the review of a site plan is impact on adjoining properties, impact on the neighborhood.
right.
That feeds back into what Bert's talking about, all of which, to me, says, I think it's not an administrative approval, it's something that we need to look at.
Including an update of the CIS, in your opinion?
I don't know enough about, I haven't seen, without seeing the CIS, I can't say. It may be that I doubt the whole CIS
No, yeah,
needs to be
no.
updated, but there may be a portion of it in terms of traffic that maybe.
An amendment or addendum.
Yeah, but I think that would be something that I'd look to staff to, make a recommendation on.
Just if I might, originally, like I said before, this was set up like this originally as one of the earlier, going through the CIS and all that. And then it went back to residential, then we added the residential component, which was the last thing that was approved. Actually, it first started out to be a hotel, if you all remember, and we all want to forget all of the things that we've gone through on this. But, we're just here to get your.
Yeah, I think unfortunately that normally we can give you a very clear answer. But I think in this one, we're a little confused by the timeline and just understanding what the CIS included, and did the CIS envision 2 floors of office, and we looked at that and accepted it, and the traffic consultant said, hey, everything's fine. I don't know. I think we need some more info before we can give you the answer of whether we feel this can be an administrative approval. I don't want to have a full-on submittal again, but at the same token, to Mr. Shear's point, I don't think that I'm at liberty to make that comment yet.
The other aspect is, to what extent has the passage of time between when the CIS was done and now changed that analysis? And I don't remember, Mr. Biddison, when was do you remember when the CIS was done?
I don't remember exactly, but I think actually Park Street has changed in its two-way vision since this project has been going.
Was it pre-pandemic?
Yeah,
so-
I think it was maybe 18,
Yeah, so
something like that.
I'm a little uncomfortable with, and I have no idea which way all that cuts, but,
We need to look at it,
yeah.
okay?
So for me, there's just that one piece. In the old days, if it were office, everybody shows up between 7 o'clock in the morning and 8:15 or something like that. Lots of people coming and lots of people leaving at 5 o'clock or something like that. If it's residential, people come and go, and, it's different. That's the only thing that I don't have the expertise in that, and I wouldn't want to move this forward and then have some crazy traffic jam or something, and people looking at us going, oh, we missed that.
Let's reserve judgment on this pending the review by the city.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that, Mr. Dupuy, you talk with Mr. Biddison and maybe get our traffic consultant involved. Just review, as you see fit, review the CIS, review the early submissions, and take a look at what you any consultants you feel appropriate feel about this. It might be a simple letter from your consultant to our consultant, that's a simple letter back that says everything's great. I don't have enough info to be able to sit here and tell you one way or the other. I will tell you that I don't sense the board has got any angst about your proposal, and we want to keep you moving forward. We're just a little concerned about dotting the i's and making sure you don't get tripped up as we move forward.
Well, I'll pull out the old stuff and I'll
Work with staff and try
make a
and
meeting with.
try and
with
just
Nick
get it hammered
kinda
out
go
and
through
convince us
that,
otherwise.
See where it needs to go.
All right.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you again,
Yes.
Always.
and again.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right.
Thanks, you guys.
No, thank you, Nick. Good points, board. Let's see, project updates. I don't know if anybody had any questions about those.
No, but I should tell you that it just happened on Monday, but Bell Bistro was approved. So you should see their outdoor dining come up. They got all their stuff from Paris Baguette, all their ducks in a row.
Okay.
So that should work out. The city commission was actually generally very excited about the use of that space.
I do believe that there was some consternation at the commission about that submittal and some of the oddity of just the situation with it being public property that's not directly in front of either their building or, well, that's not fair to say, but the oddity of the situation, because apparently you get two people sharing it. Is there anything that you need from this body at any point to help you with?
Part 2, Bell Bistro got approved, but they're in the process of, they've got a process to direct stuff down. They're in the process of directing back to us that specific provision requiring the consent of the neighboring property owner. There's some feelings on the commission that we should have more say because it's our property. So situations exactly like Bell Bistro are easier because it's our property and we think that's a good use for it, was the general consensus. So it seems like they're going to be sending us a little bit of an ordinance study to relook at, luckily not the whole thing, just that specific provision about consent.
Well, we'll do whatever they ask us to. I mean, I think my response to that would just be that in order to have that dining, don't they have to enter into a dining agreement with the city, at least for the purpose? So it is our decision.
Yeah.
Their decision, the city commission, I mean, on that, not with the discretion of the owners, but we'll take a look.
Yeah, and there's more nuance, and we'll get into it when we get
We'll take a
directed
look.
on, but
Any other questions on the project updates? All right, what do we got? We got the agenda for, pre-application. Is there an administrative approval?
there was none, actually.
Okay.
Next meeting.
And then the next meeting, July 9th. Got Triangle District and childcare. Anything else on the docket in your mind?
I'm actually considering, let me see your feedback, not doing this and doing the RFP.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's just more important. The Triangle District stuff seems,
Well, we're not going to do
Pretty
it on
far
July
away.
23rd, so let's
yeah.
do it on the 9th.
and we got to get going on it.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, we're August,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
and
good
we're a
point.
month behind then.
yeah.
Good point.
So whether or not I have time to do either of these, TBD, but I think the RFP would bump ahead.
Okay,
Correct.
So that's what we'll be working on for the
Okay.
night. And that's the only thing I plan on bringing the night.
good,
Okay.
excellent.
Mr.
Look,
Dupuy,
if it's not perfect, bring it anyway,
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
because you know that we'll want to tweak it, whatever
Yeah,
you do.
yeah. And
I'm going to go a step further and suggest that perhaps, whether it's part of the RFP discussion or maybe even a separate item, Mr. Dupuy, that maybe the staff can take a stab at looking at the 2040 plan, take a stab at looking at high level what this body has come forward and said, these are all the little things we want to correct. And maybe helping this board understand better and organize our thoughts better as to what we're attempting to do in more detail with this. There's the translation of the ordinance from the City Commission joint meeting. There's the translation of the ordinance from its current form to the new form. There's correction of errors and these little things. There's also implementation of anything that the master plan recommended that we feel we are needing to do from a compliance perspective. And then there's a whole other bucket of things that the master plan recommends, whether or not we're going to do them now, whether or not we're going to study them now. I think we need to get organized as much for our own sake, but also for communicating with the public, so they don't understand that from the get-go, we're trying to put ADUs here, we're trying to do this. Here is the process, this is what we're actually doing, this is what we're not doing, and this is what our end goal is. So I think we're going to need that for an accurate RFP anyway, but I think it would be helpful. Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I'd like to see you republish the 2040 plan online so that the public has access to it
At least the
before
way,
we
yeah.
start the process. Okay? It just,
It is online, but I'll make sure.
Make sure the links.
well, make sure it's online in the sense of our July 9th meeting.
And maybe you could even, like I said, just identify.
Or
even-
cross-reference it.
Even in narrative form, these are the four buckets of things that we're attempting to do with this RFP. These are the things that we're not attempting to do with this RFP, so that we can get an understanding of how much heavy lifting we have to do. I mean, if there's items to be studied before an ordinance is updated or written, that's a lot of work we're going to have to do that I don't know we want to pay a consultant to be sitting here twiddling their thumbs while we're doing it. At the same token, I don't want to push a bunch to the back if it's important. You know what I mean? Help us just
I
get a
think
better
so.
understanding here.
I think so.
Yeah, you can cross-reference the 2040 plan.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of republishing, just put a note in the materials as to how
Fresh
the
links, yeah.
public goes and looks at it if they want
I
to.
want to add that part of the RFP process should include how that, not just the metrics, but how we eventually score things, how are there interviews, what's the format for the interview, because it's been done very, not necessarily for planning purposes, but some other things has not been well done. I don't think it's been, I don't think it's worked well for the commission. It's made for meetings till 3 o'clock in the morning or something. So I think maybe we could make recommendations to the commission as to, and I think there's a bit of a template that I think can work. We don't have to reinvent it. This is out of my bailiwick a little bit. Maybe you have a little bit more expertise in it, but just to make sure that we treat potential consultants appropriately, people submitting proposals,
Tens of thousands of dollars.
yeah, and making sure that the net's wide, so we're getting right people, and so, that's as important as the proposals itself.
Great. Any other input? All right. Board, it was a tough night, but thank you for your support and good work. Let's move forward with this, and then with that, I will call this meeting adjourned.